I wonder what he thought of the media now and the way the media has evolved now. But most of India does today remember him as a very decent man, a man who died with his integrity intact, a man who was committed to the idea of India. Can I ask you if you have any anecdotes or stories about him that perhaps describe these traits the best?
This was during one of my first meetings with him. And first I joined the Prime Minister's office, which was in South Block, as you know. And after a day or two, for the first time, I went to his home office, which was in the 7 RCR. And he was sitting there quietly going through files. And he looked at me, smiled, and he said that I'm a small man and in this big chair. And we both laughed. And this was basically the underlying theme for 28 months, about 28 months I worked with him, that I'm a small man in a big chair. And and I kept telling him, you're the Prime Minister of the country. So it was whatever you say, whatever all these files you are doing. So that humility, that decency, and that honesty about that I'm in this chair, that's why people think that I'm big, otherwise I'm a small man. And he came from a very humble background, as all of us know. And he used to talk very little about himself. That's one thing, I learned from him. And I really appreciate it. And that's something really touched me, that he didn't want to talk about himself or his family or his personal affairs and all that. But once in a while, things trickle out. And that where that humility came from, I can pinpoint now that it came from his beginnings. He told me that when he passed out from matriculation or something, he didn't have shoes. And he had to go to a nearby town to continue his studies. So his uncle bought him shoes. So here's a person who rose from that kind of a background and, as you know, later became a global leader. And global leaders used to talk to him, take his counsel. Everyone remembers that quote from Barack Obama, that he being the guru when it comes to the policy, global policy. And he said it in G20. And so that was that humility, that decency, that I'm not what, this chair is trying to make me to be. So that is... That's one of the things that really touched me, and it stayed with me for a very long time.
Have we come full circle? My last question to you, Mr. Pachauri. Dr. Manmohan Singh's harshest political critics are today paying tribute to the man. Would you say that he's sitting up there somewhere and smiling at all of this?
She had said it already. History will be kinder to me. And he knew that. He knew that at that point of time when politics was so divisive, politics was so bitter, he was being, there were so many allegations against him, not personal, but about the government and what all was wrong with the government. But one thing he knew, he had a vision for this country. And he had that consensus making power to implement that vision. You can imagine, a coalition first with the left front, which was totally opposed to many of his policies, and then with the 20 small parties. So he had that consensus making ability to implement the vision he had. And thirdly, he had that empathy, almost like a guardian, because of his background, because of the harshness he had experienced as a child and growing up. He had that empathy with the people. So it was very clear. He was a reformer. He was a capitalist free marketeer. But he also never lost that sight of the goal, that the fruits of that economic progress have to go to the people who are really poor and who need it the most. And that's why all the policies, if you look at them, Narega, right to education, right to food, Aadhaar, right to information, they all connect him to that. And that's what made him a complete administrator or a leader and he didn't want to talk about it. Very unassuming, very unfazed by what was going on in the media. And sometimes the staff, people like us, used to get a bit upset when we saw and heard and read about allegations against him. But he was very unfazed. He said, "This is just against my chair, and they'll be all proved wrong." And they've been proved wrong, and that's why I hope that all the praise which is being heaped upon him today, uh, if it had been done 10 years ago, he would have died a happier man.